Hello everyone and welcome to the new video. The battle against Amazon goes on. I digged out footage from 1996 where J.R.R. Tolkien's son Cristopher and most renowned Tolkien scholar Tom Shippey point the fact that J.R.R. Tolkien created mythology for England and, more importantly, Western Europe lore affected him, not African or Latino lore affected him. This video topic is all about lore-friendly Middle-earth, so sit back and relax while listening to these two legends.
A passion of mine ab initio was for myth and for fairy story, and above all for heroic legend on the brink of fairy tale and history, of which there is far too little in the world accessible to me for my appetite. I'm not learned in the matters of myth and fairy story, however, for in such things I have always been seeking material, things of a certain tone and air, and not simple knowledge. Also, and here I hope I shall not sound absurd, I was from early days grieved by the poverty of my own beloved country. It had no stories of its own, bound up with its tongue and soil, not of the quality that I sought, and found as an ingredient in legends of other lands. There was Greek, and Celtic, and Romance, Germanic, Scandinavian, and Finnish, which greatly affected me, but nothing English, save impoverished chapbook stuff. Of course there was and is all the Arthurian world, but powerful as it is imperfectly naturalized, associated with the soil of Britain, but not with English, does not replace what I felt to be missing.
In the same letter, he went on to say, "Once upon a time, my crest has long since fallen, I had a mind to make a body of more or less connected legend, which I could dedicate to England, to my country." For Tolkien, this was a way of replacing that which England had lost.
How was England demythologized? I would say the short answers are 1066 and the Industrial Revolution. In 1066, the English literary class was eliminated or dispossessed. We don't know what went down the plug with them, but we do know that native English literature was replaced very soon by a French-based literature. And what we've got left from before 1066 are fragments. We've got Beowulf with Grendel. We've got Beowulf with the dragon. We've got the strange Sigil-Herwan creatures who come out of Exodus. We don't have any Old English reference to Wudu-Wasan, wood-woses. We only get people remembering them some hundreds of years later. But the memory of them some hundreds of years later indicates that perhaps there was a time when people really did know what they were, but we don't know about it anymore, because all that's been eliminated. So a whole tradition, I think, of non-human supernatural creatures has just been wiped away with only a few smears and scratches remaining. And that is something which happened to England because of 1066, which didn't happen to other European countries. And then the Industrial Revolution came along, and of course it came earlier in England than in other countries, and when it came along, it took people's interests away from the fairy tales and the folk tales which they used to get from their nannies. Now in Germany, they were still telling them in the 19th century when the Grimms made their collection. But when English collectors went round trying to make similar collections inspired by the Grimms in the later 19th century, there wasn't very much left at all. So by the accidents of defeat in battle or of economic progress, I think a whole native English world of stories was destroyed. And ever since then, England has not had, as it were, a native mythology. It's had to borrow things from other people, like trolls from the Scandinavians, for instance. One thing I think I've learned from Tolkien, which I think he'd be pleased about, is that he's made me a better observer. I actually look at things which he looked at, because I've read him writing about them, and started taking interest in them myself. So Tolkien, I think, is the kind of person who turns people into bird watchers, or tree spotters, or hedgerow grubbers. People who look at the plants and try to work out what they are, what their old name was, what they ought to be called now. A thing I never knew before is the tree which I call a rowan, and which other people call a mountain ash. Rowan is Norse. Mountain ash is modern learned. What's the English word for it? I never knew. But actually, I read the Lord of the Rings carefully, and I realized that the Old English word is quick-beam, quick-beam, and actually the modern English word is quicken or wicken. Now, I know lots of people who have names like Wickenden. I just didn't know what it meant before.